Hello everyone, I'm Krasi Attasio. I have with me the VEDIC astrologer Ashwin Balaji. You remember him last time we discussed with him the very interesting topic, love at first sight, from VEDIC point of view and from the Babylonian astrology point of view. We both use sidereal astrology, sidereal zodiac. Ashwin is a great astrologer, and we will continue the topic about the love relationships, but this time, as we promised, we will talk more on how a relationship will develop. What are the promising factors on a relationship to become fact? So, welcome, Ashwin. So, why don't you start? You're very welcome. Why don't you start and tell me, please, how, from Vedic perspective, you see which are the promising factors which say there will be a relationship or not?
Okay, so let's not get into the marriage factor, because I think that is again another area which is actually the continuation of the love relationship that we are currently going to talk about. So let's see how a promise is made in a chart, in a natal chart, for a native, in terms of getting into a good or a decent and a long-standing relationship even before marriage. So currently in 2018, people want to know whom they want to marry much more than in order to get into a good sense of belonging with another person in life. So relationships are actually very long these days before marriage. Before sometime it used to be relationships might be very short before marriage. They just try and get together and then they get married. But today it's not like that. People tend to get to know each other a lot, and they live, even if they don't live together, but they kind of live mentally together, and they tend to have a good relationship and a long relationship for about 3, 4, or even 5 years before marriage. And there are people who don't marry at all, and that is another case, and they just live together for their entire life. But in terms of to kickstart a relationship, how does a relationship starts? So there again, the major significators of marriage that are Venus for men, and Mars for women. So if there is a particular dasha or antardasha, or if the house ruled by the seventh lord, or the house ruled by, so if the seventh lord is activated in your as a time lord, or if the fifth lord is activated as a time lord, and probably even in some cases if 11th lord is activated as a time lord, because 11th lord means gains, so you can never rule out the 11th house in anything. So I think 11th house also plays a very pivotal role in terms of giving a good relationship, because as much as 11th house gives gains, 11th house profection might 11th house annual profection is one of the timing techniques, so I'm just using that term here. So if the 11th house or the 11th lord is activated, a person might actually get into a relationship where he might also have materialistic gains from the other person. And it's not only, it might not necessarily be material, but it might actually be very harmonial and cordial in terms of a psychological perspective as well. So and coming to the fifth lord, and see, it's a symmetrical point, the 5 and 11. So fifth house is the house of love, and 11th house the house of everything in terms of taking up its gains. So whatever comes our way without any kind of I won't say without any effort or something, but still whatever comes to us is kind of a gain which we didn't intend, or we might intend as well. So that's a different case. So fifth house is the house of love, and if you're running through a dasha, or if you're activated as, if your fifth lord is activated as a time lord, you might get into a good relationship. And so not good relationship, you might get into a relationship. And same case with seventh lord, if you're running through a period ruled by your seventh lord, you might run into a relationship. But now let's see how this manifests into a good relationship. So in terms of the particular planet, to give good result, we need to analyze the dignity or the condition of the planet in the chart. So from Vedic point of view, If a planet is placed, if a planet is not placed in 6, 8, or 12, the planet is considered to be in a decent dignity. Okay, and if a planet is placed in its sign of ruling, like for example, if Mars is placed in Scorpio or Aries, and if it doesn't happen to be 6, 8, or 12 in your natal chart, that is a decent like it is an indication of a relationship that you're going to get into, which might actually last long, or it might be a good relationship. So let's say, for example, you are a Taurus ascendant, okay, and your Mars also rules the 12th house. So Mars is a Dushtana. Dushtana means ruler of a Dushtana. Dushtana means negative house in Vedic astrology. So since Mars also rules your 7th house, along with your 12th house, Mars signifies those themes related to your relationships or love or marriage or something of that sort. So it might be a very significant or an important period in terms of getting to a union with someone else who might actually be an integral part of your life in the long run. So that depends upon the Mars's dignity. So if Mars is placed in the 7th house, or if Mars is placed in a good dignity like Kendra or a Trigona, that is 4, 7, 10, or 5 and 9, or even the ascendant. Ascendant is also a Kendra, yes, and a Trigona. So if planets are placed in such good dignities, the person is said to, it is promised to an extent that the person is going to have a good, decent relationship. Okay. So in the same case, let's say if the 7th lord or the particular planet that or the dasha that you are currently running through is afflicted, or it is not placed in a good dignity. So let's again take an ascendant. So this time let's take Gemini ascendant, and for Gemini ascendant, the 5th lord of love, that is Venus. Venus is also the planet of love. Venus gives all the comforts, good comforts in the world, so that in such a way that you tend to get carried away by all the Venusian traits if Venus is placed in a good dignity. So what are the good dignities of Venus? Venus is in Libra is a good dignity, and Venus in Pisces is a good dignity. And Venus is not really in a good dignity for Gemini ascendant if it is placed in the 4th house, because Venus, that is the sign of fall for Venus. So but if not for Gemini ascendant, any planet that is placed in a good dignity, or if it is not in a sign of fall without 6, 8, or 12, that planet promises to some extent that the person will get into a decent relationship. So for a Gemini ascendant, if a person is running through Venus Mahadasha, and if Venus is placed in the 5th house, that is probably going to be the most significant relationship, which might actually last longer than one might think in the beginning, because the initial stages might be a bit shaky because of the fact that Venus also rules the 12th house. But 12th house is all about initial hiccups, and 12th house is also the hidden area. So 12th house, I also see 12th house in such a way. The 12th house is the karma of past life that we have to fulfill. So 12th house keeps pushing the person, and let's say first house is me and 12th house is my karma. So karma keeps pushing me to go forward, and in some way or the other, I tend to see the light of the day, and the void just clears, the nothingness just goes off the air, and I just get into a very decent relationship in terms of understanding the person, and in terms of understanding what the relationship needs, and also in terms of understanding how the relationship actually wants to go forward from the perspective of both the people who are actually in a relationship. So it is important that 5, 7 houses are activated, and the particular dasha or the bhukti or a sub-period lord that you are running, it needs to be in a good dignity. That is a clear indication of whether this person will have a long-lasting relationship or not. So let's say for same Gemini ascendant, if you're running through a Venus Mahadasha, and Venus is Venus is placed in the 4th house, which is the sign of its fall. And if you get into a relationship with Venus, there are sublords, but still the subtime lords, but still Venus is the Dasha lord, and in that case, Venus might See, I'm not trying to bring out a negative shade to Venus and Virgo, but Venus and Virgo is the sign of its debilitation, it's the sign of its weakness, it's the sign of its bad dignity. So, that particular native who has Venus in Virgo, and if Venus is activated as a time lord for that particular period, it becomes very difficult for that person to actually find harmony or calmness or longevity in a particular relationship due to the natural case, because of the like suppression of the Venusian traits due to its debilitated placement. So I'm not saying that it is very difficult to like sustain a relationship, but still we might need to work hard, and we have to pass through that particular period that Venus rules. Okay, Venus Mahadasha is for 20 years, so I'm not saying that you need to pass all those 20 years, but still, if you get through the major period that is ruled by Venus, and if the next sub period comes over, and if that particular planet is placed in a good dignity, one might actually uh, like tend to continue the relationship which they were previously uh, going through. So, and it's simple. Annual perfections is one of the simplest but powerful techniques that we can talk about. So let's see from the annual perfections point of view. And if for Gemini ascendant, Jupiter is the ruler of the seventh house, and if the seventh house perfection is activated, Jupiter as a time lord is activated, and the dignity of Jupiter plays a major role in terms of
Just
determining.
to interrupt you, Ashwin, to
Sure,
say
sure.
with two words, what are the perfections so that the people know? They are very much like the Indian dashas, mahadashas. Just to say in two words, we're running cycles. Your first year is ruled by your ascendant, your second year is ruled by your second house, and so on. And all the houses get repetitive rulership until one day you get to the seventh house rulership. And then you see whether the Lord of the seventh house is activated, and then we may think of possible relationship, though not only the perfections should be looked at, as Ashwin said, we looked at other factors, including the perfections.
Okay, so perfections are one of the simplest and powerful techniques in order to know what the particular theme of the year is going to be. So, so how to actually? I just to add to what you said, Krasi. It's just about the progression of the houses over every year. So each year I'll be jumping through each houses, and each lord from your rising sign will be ruling that particular period of your year. So, or ruling that year of your life. So when you're in 0 to 1, the age 0 to 1, the themes relating to your first house are activated, and your first lord will be the time lord. The ruler of the first lord will be the time lord, and then from 1 to 2, the second house is activated, and likewise, a person will run through all the 12 houses, and each lord will be the ruling lord of every year. So likewise, after all the 12 houses are completed, at the age of 12, you will again start from the rising sign. So see, it is actually easy to note through perfections which year that you might actually get into a relationship or something. So as we say, the fifth lord and seventh lord are major, they are one of the major significators of relationship. So see, a native might get into a seventh house perfection when he's 18. So at 18 years of age, there is a very good chance that the person might get into a very significant relationship. But whether that relationship will last long, it will be determined by the condition and the dignity of the planet that is ruling your seventh house, or the planet that is activated as the time lord. So for Aries ascendant, Venus is the ruler of the seventh house, and if a person who is 18, who is perfecting through the seventh house period, uh, will have Venus getting activated. So the position of Venus in the chart plays a very significant role, and the dignity of Venus plays a very important role. So Venus in bad dignity puts us in a bad light and puts us in a bad relationship, or not a very not a very cordial or harmonial relationship that we are looking forward to.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to establish about this.
This was absolutely agree. Very, very interesting points. I want to add only 2 points really from Babylonian point of view. And this is what was really looked at in ancient Babylon. And this was the heliacal phases of the planets. So Venus would be taken for both horoscopes, women and men, as significator of marriage. In the Vedic astrology, I know it's a little bit different. You look at different significators. But if, for example, Venus, apart from Venus, which house Venus rules, if Venus is invisible in the horoscope, invisible and retrograde even more, then until Venus appears heliacally in the horoscope of the person, this person will have really hard time keeping relationship or starting relationship. So this is one thing. And then you can follow up on the progress chart when in which particular age Venus will rise heliacally. And you are running the chance, though not often, that Venus never shows up in the horoscope of a person. And then we really have these hard cases when people have issues, very big challenges in their love life. And then the other thing, again related to the heliacal phases of the planets, is when the moon is invisible. The moon is also significator of the family, starting family, and starting up family. And when the moon is invisible, oftentimes people just don't get married. They don't really hold in relationship. They don't stay long in relationship. So this is also something that it's important to consider. So when you see someone with invisible Venus, for example, combust, you say, there are remedies, and we may really, good thing will be that when we close up this discussion, that we propose some remedies for people who have debilitated Venus or Jupiter as significator of the husband in the Vedic astrology. So if Venus is invisible, this can be supported either on Friday to do specific rituals to address, to like give tribute to Venus, or to wear Venus talisman, like I do, which is something extremely powerful, made on a Venus day, Venus time. So there are many remedies, but in general, the heliacal phases play enormous role in this. And the other thing, which I know is also not very common for the Vedic astrology, it was introduced after in the Hellenistic and the Arabic astrology. These are the lots. And you have parts in the horoscope which you derived. You have lot of fortune, the most popular. You have lot of the marriage, lot of the children. And when you determine this lot and you see how the lot is placed, whether afflicted or not, whether dignified or in different ways, then you know how the marriage will be, or the relationship, whether relationship will last, whether will fail. So these are also the points. For the lot of marriage, just to tell you, there are two amazing authors, both very ancient. The first is Paul of Alexandria. He was amazing author who wrote a book called Introduction to Astrology, actually Introduction. You can find it on Amazon. And there he is giving a huge list of the Arabic lots and is explaining how to use them. And then the other author, which is my favorite, is Regiomontanus, who is Regiomontanus, yes, who lived in, he's absolutely amazing author. He was a genius who when he was 20, he already was well-known astrologer in the 16th century. He was the astrologer of Maximilian I. So he also made a list of Arabic lots, useful for establishing whether one will have children, will marry, will everything. Health also you can see. So just briefly to tell you on the lot of marriage, because in antiquity people having relationship, it would be expected this thing will last. So in the ancient text you cannot find a lot of the relationship. No, it will be a lot of marriage. So yes, so it makes difference for female and male horoscope. For a man horoscope, you calculate the distance in degrees between the Sun and Venus. If, for example, the Sun, just for simple calculation, If the Sun is in the 1st degree Pisces and Venus in the 20th degree Pisces, then you have 20 degrees difference between them. Then you take these 20 degrees and you apply them from the ascendant. And if the ascendant is 1st degree, 4 degrees Aries, the lot of marriage falls in the 20th degree of Aries. And this way you see how is this point of marriage placed, how many planets apply to this lot of marriage. Then you will know how many relationships, how many approximately, how many marriages the person may have. For women, you take the distance between Venus and Saturn, and you do absolutely the same. If Venus is in the 30th degree Aries, and Saturn is in the 5th degree Taurus, you see, for easy calculation, 6 degrees, then you apply them from the ascendant, and so on. And then you see how the lot of marriage is placed. Now, this lot is not a single factor to be taken into consideration. You may need to look at other factors. As Ashwin said, absolutely necessarily 7th house lords, 5th house lords. I will not repeat you, it was brilliantly said. And Venus, of course. So and the heliacal phases and the moon. And of course, just to finalize my brief explanation, the primary directions of Venus to the axis of the descendant, primary direction, for example, with the ruler of the 7th house with the lot of fortune. All these things can be easily calculated. Well, not easily. I may do a separate explanatory video about this, but you need many supporting factors in order to make the conclusion for anything in astrology.
Okay, so there are two more points that I wanted to bring, like two techniques that people might be familiar with. Is like one is using the D9 chart, that is the Navamsha chart, divisional chart, which is used in Vedic astrology in order to find out the fortune and well-being of a native in general. Okay, so Navamsha is a pivotal establishment that Vedic astrologers use in order to determine the well-being or the longevity of the relationship. So if let's say the 7th lord of your Navamsha gets activated through a time lord, or if the 7th lord of your natal chart, that is the D1 chart, makes some form of a connection to the 7th house of your Navamsha or the 7th lord of your Navamsha, or in transits, that will be a very significant period in terms of getting into a relationship. And again, we need to go through the dignities of the planets, and I think we already spoke about what are the good dignities of the planet.
Yes, yes.
Very bad dignities are 6, 8, and 12, which might cause hurdles or breaks in continuing a relationship. So, and the other thing is secondary progressions is one of the most simplest, and again, it is the most powerful techniques that people can use. And so if your 7th lord or something, let's say Venus is your 7th lord, and if Venus gets into a very significant trine or a significant relationship with another planet that also signifies relationships with regard to in relation to your natal chart, that might be a very important case where a person might get into a relationship. So let's say again, for Aries ascendant, if Jupiter in transit comes in connection with the progressed Venus, that is a very important period where a person might get into a relationship. I'm saying Jupiter because Jupiter is the ruler of the 9th and 12th lord for Aries, and 12th lord is your private life, and 9th house is the house of fortune, and Venus is the house of relationship. So in order to have a fortunate relationship in a private manner, which is your 12th house, fortune is the 9th house, and the relationship is the 7th house. So Jupiter might just kickstart the theme along with Venus if Jupiter makes a connection to your progressed chart. And as you said, moon moon with the seventh lord in the progress chart might actually prove to be very significant in terms of
Yeah.
getting into a relationship. So, because as you already said in the previous video, without without moon, no one dies and no one takes birth. So,
No, nothing
moon,
can happen without the moon. No.
yeah. So, moon is very important thing, and moon is general comfort, the only thing that we are looking
Very
for.
true.
Even Venus rules the comfort. Venus rules luxury. We, but moon is the very basic thing that we need. Moon signifies our emotional needs. So when progressed moon comes into connection with your seventh lord or with your Venus or Mars, that might be a perfect period when your relationship might just kickstart. So
Ashwin, how you look at the transits? I personally don't rely very much on transits when need to conclude on important events. I don't think that the transits of the inferior planets, which such as Mercury, Venus, and Mars, can really be a reason for event to manifest in life. So yeah.
no, even I have the same feeling because see, transit cannot. Transit is happening globally, and it is the same for everyone.
Yeah.
But a transit will to each and every one of us based upon the activation that that particular transit of a planet uh, can indicate in every natal chart or to a particular person. So transit becomes important, I think, when it actually activates or gets connected in a very great manner to your natal chart or to your Navamsha chart, especially because we are talking about relationships and
Yeah.
marriage. So a very significant transit will play, and transit of a lord plays very important role if that particular lord is the ruler of your timing period. If the particular lord is the time lord for your current period that you are running through, the period of the particular period of that particular lord might be very important even in terms of transit. Okay, so there are a few things that you might want to note with transit. One is if your seventh lord or your fifth lord is transiting through the fifth or seventh house and forms a good relationship with your fifth or seventh house, fifth lord or seventh lord, or even the 11th lord, and also some kind of relationship with your time lord. Okay, that is a very significant factor. So again, let's fall with Aries ascendant, and we have Venus. Okay, so if a transit Jupiter or Venus comes in uh, connection to the natal Venus, that may be a very important important period in terms of beginning of a relationship. And I tend to say Jupiter every time because Jupiter is the significator of the family. Okay? So if it is significator of family in Vedic astrology, and Jupiter is the natural karaka for the house of family. So and it is there is a simple transit technique that Vedic astrologers use. Is if Jupiter is placed in 2, 5, 7, 9, or 11, it is a very positive transit in terms of getting into relationships. From your moon, I'm talking about from moon. If Jupiter,
Aha.
if Jupiter is placed in second house, fifth house, seventh house, ninth house, and 11th house from your moon, that particular Jupiter transit might prove to be very important in terms of relationship. But again, it's important to establish the relationship that Jupiter is going to have with your Dasha Lord or the Time Lord, and also with your natal seventh house or seventh Lord. So,
Amazing
these
about
are,
Jupiter, and this makes perfect sense because in ancient Babylon, Jupiter was God Marduk who created humanity. So it makes sense that he's really related to family creation.
yeah. Jupiter is very important, and I think in the upcoming videos about relationship and marriage that we are going to talk about, Jupiter is going to play a very pivotal role, and I think people are going to find more about Jupiter. So
Ashwin, I think with this, if you like, we can conclude. And with this, what you're saying, our next video should be on remedies. How to improve.
remedies.
Yes, exactly. How to improve.
I think I think I'm good with the psychological remedies, but I don't really work with the Vedic remedies that are prescribed in the Vedic texts or something. But I tend to work with psychological remedies. Just to give an example, if a person is having a weak seventh lord, or let's say if a person is having a seventh lord placed with planet of separation, which might be Mars or the North Node Rahu. So in that case, it might be the person that a native will get into a relationship tends to be a bit impulsive or nervous, or even like they might have a very bad temper, or they might be heated up very easily. So it could be very difficult to cope up with that kind of a person who tends to blast very easily, or who tends to uh, like who is vulnerable to separation very easily. So those are the things that a person might actually uh, like face in terms of seventh lord placed with the planet of separation. So this is not about marriage, but this is about a relationship itself. That could be even before marriage. So the important thing is to analyze our own chart or our own strengths in terms of planetary positions, and we can act accordingly from a psychological point of view, which is what I think is very crucial. So, and yes, as you said, so Friday seems to be very important even in Vedic rituals. If a person has an afflicted Venus, so people go to temple and they perform rituals like lighting lamps to the gods, and praying like using Sanskrit mantras, and praying to
Yeah.
the atmosphere, which is actually for God as per the Vedic rituals. So those are some of the things that people perform. But again, even if you want something to manifest, you need the particular time lord to get activated, and
Yes. Yes. I
which
fully.
eventually will give you good results. So I don't disagree with remedies or talismans, even though even at this point of time, even I'm quite fascinated about the talisman thing. But still, I think I'm more into the Time Lord and scientific astrology point. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not a
Okay.
scientist.
With this, we can conclude, and then we will develop further this topic, because this is amazing and topic that is um, actually it's interesting for absolutely every human being. So thank you so
Yeah,
much, Ashwin, and we will continue maybe exactly with estimating the right time, advices related to the timings of relationships, and how to avoid mistakes exactly with the timings. It's like the elections in
yeah, yeah.
astrology. When you
I
get
think well said.
yeah, when you get the right election, you can even improve bad marriage. Or so we will. This will be most probably our next topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
having me.
under this video, you will find the contacts of Ashwin, and also a link to his Celestial Vibes Astrological magazine, which is actually very scientific, and it's really very, very interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.